Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome. We're going to be doing a stretch class today. So I'm going to grab my equipment on my block and we're going to get ourselves going here. Today we're going to be working with a block and we're going to be working lower back and hips. So welcome, everybody. Sorry, we're running a little bit late because our bar class ran a little bit over. So it's taking me just a few seconds here to get myself situated for you guys. And I want you to know that I'm here so we can always fast forward and do this stuff here in 1 second. Okay, so welcome, welcome, welcome. So today we're going to be working our hips and our back. And I just want to say hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. We're going to be working on stretch today. So I'm just going to kind of have a seat here so that we can kind of come together. So this is a yoga stretch class, and it is for all levels. And you don't really need equipment. However, I utilized or made this class to work with a block. If you don't have one, it's not a deal breaker. It's not like you can't participate or do this. You could take a beach towel and fold it up pretty small, and you want to get it somewhat thick because when you do use it, it's going to come together. What also works is like a small pillow from the couch or one of those cute little ones that are on some female in your house has 80,000 pillows in her bed. So just go sneak one of them. She'll never know the difference. If you can get one that's a little bit thicker, that would also help. So we're going to begin in a seated position. And I also want to mention that for the stretch classes that I'm airing right now, I'm reading from a book that's from an author, a yoga teacher author. His name is Darren Main. He practices out of the Yoga Tree. I believe he's still there. I think he was one of the co-founders of that, or one of the founders of the Yoga Tree in San Francisco. And they have a bunch of studios there. And early in my yoga practice, like 16, 17 years ago, 15 years ago, I would go to San Francisco and learn yoga. There wasn't really, even in LA here, there wasn't really a lot to learn from way back when yoga wasn't cool and popular and doctors didn't know anything about it. And it's kind of interesting. So to go find those teachers like the Shiva Rays, the Sean Corns, there's so many Dharma Mitras. There's just so many people that influenced my journey. Darren Main was one of them. I've had workshops with him. I've, Skyped him in to talk specifically about this book. He also has another book called Yoga and the Path of the Urban Mystic, which is a really good kind of the fundamentals of yoga philosophy, kind of understanding the yamas and the niyamas and some of the stories. I believe he goes into even the Bhagavad Gita. And these are all the stories that kind of revolve around the history of yoga. And it, quite frankly, is one of the longest or the oldest texts that we do know. They have the oldest medical system in the world. It's 5,000 years old. And so they have their own kind of intricate medical system that they did based on people's energies. And so I find it fascinating, and I've been studying that. But it's, again, these are some of the influencers. So his spiritual journeys along the Yellow Brick Road. So we're going to be working lower back. Have your block nearby and come to a seated position like I am. And you're on the floor, on the mat. It's comfortable. It doesn't need to be in lotus here. I couldn't do this when I first started doing yoga. So I ask that you find a seat that does work for you. And then when you're here, just find your spine growing taller. Draw your heart forward, because when you do that, the shoulders kind of stack back over your hips. So our chakra lines are pools of energy that coordinate together. We have 7 primary ones that we talk about, and they run from the base of our sacrum here to the crown of our head. And if you were to see them, they were like balls, circles, and these energy would come in and circle around and disperse back out. And each of these have a different color and a different quality, and they line up with different physical attributes of our body. So as we're sitting here, we want to line those up to see if we can get the energy and the flow moving through us in a way that opens up constriction, that finds those blockages in our physical body. It starts to open them up. So as you're drawing your attention to the breath, slow it down, as we can start to move that breath through those physical bodies, through the physical, chakras and all those energy pathways called the nadis, N-A-D-I. And those, again, we have about 150, 175,000 of those pathways. So as you're connecting now to your breath, just feel it moving. This is one of my favorite portions of the book. So 5, 6 counts in, 5, 6 counts out. You're going to be here for another minute, maybe 2. This is the title of The Good Witch, Bad Witch. You can pick it up even if you haven't been with us for the others. And so, what the munchkins want to know is, are you a good witch or a bad witch? The symbolism is in the question, are you a good witch or a bad witch, is quite rich, and it embodies the crux of spiritual evolution. It represents the very question the spirit asks the soul every moment of every day. It is the same as asking us to choose the path we walk, or the master that we will serve, and the voice to which we will listen. But before we can understand the differences between a good witch and a bad witch, I think it's important to understand what a witch is. I think when we strip away myth, legend, fear, misconception, we find something rather interesting about witchcraft. Witchcraft is a very old, very beautiful religion which centers itself around the cycles of nature and our interconnectedness with the earth. It is also a teacher that we are co-creators with the divine. And in this co-creation or spell casting, this is at the heart of Glenda's question. So in a sense, you'll take another 2 breaths. We are all witches because we are all creating with the divine all the time, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. We are continually casting spells and shaping the world with our thoughts, with our beliefs, and with our actions. So now take your hands from your knees, your heart, wherever you find them, and then place them to your heart. Draw the heart forward for just a moment as we meet together here. I'm going to move simply to the side, so maybe you can see me a little bit better from where you're at, as we slide our hands down to the sides of our hips. Leave your left hand on the floor and take your right arm to the sky. If you mix these up, it won't matter. As the right arm reaches up, let's take a moment to pull the arm back. Like you want to reach to someone who's behind you in the backseat of the car, but you cannot move your body at all. Now turn your left shoulder in and your right shoulder back. Reach over your left shoulder as your left elbow bends, reaching as far as it makes sense, keeping the right hip, the right glute on the floor. Now, as you're reaching, lift through your right ribs, the arm that's reaching over you, up to the sky. If you just did that bar class, you'll be nice and warm in the same space. Now, don't collapse here with the energy because, right, that's gravity pulling us down. So we're using that floor to push away, to lift and open the heart. Yeah, and you can feel it. The body doesn't mean to do it. It just, that's where it's familiar. So lift and lift and lift and reach. Good. Now look up and let's take another, maybe 2 breaths here. Maybe close your eyes. When we co-create as a good witch, we heal the planet and we propel humanity along its evolutionary journey. And when we co-create as a bad witch, we conquer and we destroy. We deepen our own sleep and we encourage others to remain unconscious too. Now, as you take your next inhale, reach the arm up like you're going to brush the sky, fingers through the clouds, and switch sides. Place this other hand onto the floor and bring your arm up, the arm that was on the floor, the left side. First, pull the arm straight back behind you like you need to reach back to someone in the back seat. Then spin the right shoulder forward, the left shoulder back, or the arm that's tall back. Then begin the journey of reaching up through the ribs to the sky and over towards the right as you bend your right elbow. And feel free to even bring it all the way to the floor if you're that flexible. If not, you stay where you're at, pushing the ground away. Most of us will fall somewhere in the middle as you reach through and press that left hip and glute back down. You'll be here for another 3 breaths here. So in a sense, we are all witches because we are all co-creating with the divine all the time. Whether we are consciously aware of it or not, we are continually casting spells and shaping the world. And the vast majority of the people do not realize their co-creative ability and thus hand their co-creative birthright over to others. All right, now let's slowly make our way back up to the center and let me find, oh, I know exactly where I'm at. All right, so as you make your way back to the center, nice and smooth, bring your hands back to your heart. If you're in lotus like I am, I'm going to unhook my feet, bringing them out in front of me so the heels and toes are out. My heels and toes could pull closer to my body. Let's not do that today. Let's push them out in front like I want to lay down, but I want to line up my face and my feet. So when I come down forward, my face could. Maybe you're like, well, that ain't never going to happen in my life. Well, let's just say it could. Would it line up in the right space or is it way back behind you or way too out in front? So just see if you can find that space where it would line up with you if you leaned forward. Then you're going to notice if your lower back is rounded, the back hands should come behind you and you should try to straighten the back. That's the primary. If the back is straight, then you start walking forward. That's where most of us kind of find where we want to grab. Some people are grabbing the shins, the outsides of the knees, all the way to the ankle of the feet, all the way to the floor. If you're up by the feet, open your feet like you're opening a book to read
And eventually, as you draw the crown forward first, tuck the chin and bring the crown of your head down towards the arches of the feet where you'll hold. For my more flexible friends, eventually you're going to start up here and then you'll end up kind of here. You could be already there. Try scooping under the knee creases for you guys, and then using that leverage to lift the heart to get it straight and then to come down. So this is an upper back bend. You're up in the upper portion of your back where those two big bones that are up here on our back muscle, our back, the scapular, they kind of rotate a little bit. What you want to think about is those muscles really spreading and rounding. And again, I talk about a lot about those because there's the rhomboids in there, and then they attach up the neck into the traps, right? And so all of that stuff gets very, very tight in the neck and the shoulder. But we're going to release the back, upper back, in order to make our way down to the lower back hips, and then to release the low back finally. The low back and the hips are all going to be very intricately intertwined, as they are very much in communication with each other on a day-to-day basis. So they kind of let the hamstrings know where they're going to be. So World War II was an example of this. Hitler was clearly serving the bad witch. His self-serving, ego-driven behavior was a clear statement of his choice to use his co-creative power to darken the world. In fact, he served the Wicked Witch so well that he himself has become an archetype synonymous with hers. While Hitler was responsible for the deaths of countless people, he does not share that burden alone. You see, gets interesting. He may have been the charismatic leader, hell-bent on serving the ego, but there were thousands of people who quickly denied their ruby slippers and exchanged them for a good economy and a false sense of nationalism. The Europeans who followed Hitler were not bad people any more than Americans who have done nothing to end persecution and bigotry in the United States. While most of us are not involved in sins of commission, there are a few of us who have not committed sins of omission. Hitler, Stalins, and David Dukes are bound to show up once in a while, but their ability to cause trouble is significantly reduced when the masses refuse to turn their heads in fear. To listen to the voice, you've got about 5 more breaths to give you a little bit. So if you're moving deeper, move deeper. If this is a bit painful, when we're moving into these longer holds, discomfort begins to increase, it mounts. And so what I ask you is ask yourself this question. Is this pain or is this discomfort? Very quickly, you're going to know the answer, and then you can adjust. Pain is not normal ever, not in yoga even, so it's a flag that something's amiss. Discomfort, however, is kind of the journey back into comfort and into balance and health. So as you sit into a pose, it gets uncomfortable because the body is trying desperately to realign it back to that space. All right, you just got a few more breaths here, so hang in there. To listen to the voice of the good witch is to use our co-creative powers with the divine for our growth and the evolution of our planet. It means much more than living a moral life, meaning to do no harm, though that's an important first step. The good witch blesses the world with her words, her thoughts, and her deeds. She seeks to return home, but she also realizes that the only way to do this is to walk consciously and honorably. Now, hold on a second. Before you come out of this pose, I'd like you to think about moving out of it very, very slowly, because all poses, when you're holding them very long, should be moved very slowly. Any pose should be out slowly, but particularly if you've been in it for a long period of time, as the body needs to readjust. So we're going to come out of this slowly. And then as you come out and you roll up, we're going to take our just right leg and extend it out. So back yourself out and just extend this right leg out. Take the left foot that's in front and pull it in. Good. And you're going to maybe readjust that you're sitting onto your tail or your sacrum, lining again those chakras up. Bring the arms up over the head. Try interlacing the fingers if possible. If not, just keep them up. Turn the entire torso to your right leg, getting both the shoulders and the hips framed. Now exhale, forward fold, and try to bring the fingers around the ball of the foot. If you need to bend the knee, you can bend the knee. If it's just ridiculous and you can't, don't do that. Bring your hands into the floor. Now, when I said bend the knee, is because on this approach, which is often approached in hatha, not in vinyasa, is that the knee is bent. We go into the final position with the fingers, not the leg, and then we allow the leg to slowly move into position. In vinyasa, we might approach it differently, placing the hands onto the floor with a straight leg, and then slowly bringing the hands until one day they're at the feet. This one, I'm here at the foot, And then just slowly with my breath, perhaps that leg will straighten out. Once again, if it's too much, hands onto the shin, onto the ankle, or onto the floor. You can use a strap, a belt, or the belt from your robe as well. All right, you're here for about 8 or so breaths, not forever, but long enough to get into there and find yourself dropping towards it. And as you do so, we'll try to bring that left shoulder down more. Yeah, and then bring that right one kind of back and away from you a little bit. So she treats the small stuff with the same reverence and attention as she does the big stuff. And while her commitment is unshakable, her ability to smile at herself and be flexible is undeniable. She is both strong and gentle, civil and wild, creative and receptive. She speaks the truth, which is the potent medicine she uses to heal the world. And while that medicine may be a difficult pill to swallow, she always offers it with nurturance and kindness. And on an emotional level, the good witch feels pain just as well as pleasure, but she is driven by neither. Whether she is sitting in a house of tears or a house of laughter, she knows joy because both houses are built on foundations of faith, perseverance, and a deep connection with the divine. The path of the good witch is not always easy, but it is always inspired, guided, and full of purpose. Now, as you slowly make your way back up, walk your hands back up your leg until you can get your hands behind your hip and lean back. Lean back into both hands first, then extend this left leg out. Beautiful. Bring your right leg in and walk your hands back up. Hold the leg that you didn't stretch in and bring the arms back up over your head. Interlace opposite thumb out. I'm going to stay there. I'm going to turn towards you just a little bit so you can see a little bit easier. Turn opposite thumb out and now exhale, fold to that leg. Once again, if you cannot naturally go to the foot, bend the knee, place it here. Or if you're like, no, I was on the floor, your hands would then go to the similar place on the other side. From there, the right shoulder will press down and towards the right ankle. The left shoulder will draw back. The left hip will even press back and away. Then you can make your way down towards that thigh. You might notice this side is completely different than the other, so you may need to modify differently here, and I suggest you listen to your body. Everything she does is a lesson for herself and the world, and she draws strength from her inner wisdom. But she views the world with the newness and the purity of a child's eye. And she lives as a maiden and a knight, a mother and a father, an old sage and a medicine woman. It's weird because when I describe this, it reminds me of all my yoga teachers. It makes me think of all you guys. They all possess these qualities. It's so cool. And I'll explain more when we get it. I'll explain it when I read more here. But it really, really is. To listen to the voice of the bad witch, on the other hand, is quite different. And we all felt a little bit of this in us too. The bad witch is motivated by fear and uses her co-creative powers consciously or unconsciously to gain pleasure and to avoid pain. She forms relationships, but only when they serve her. And when possible, she is present and loving. But make no mistake about it, her love is very conditional and will be turned to rage if you challenge her perception of reality. She denies her dark side by pointing out the faults and the failures in others, using their different beliefs, behaviors, and appearance as an excuse to hate. She reacts based on her perceptions of the past, rather than acting from her inner wisdom in the present moment. And she misuses her co-creative power in order to form the future in the dark image of the past, thus making sure that history will indeed repeat itself. Take another 4 breaths here, friends. You're almost there. The bad witch cries out of her loneliness and laughs out of insecurity. And this laughter is most times at the expense of others and is often a reflection of her dark side. Emotions to her are something to be feared and exploited, but never embraced. It's tempting to think that an individual is all good witch or all bad witch, but the reality is that both are existing all the time in our unconsciousness. They live in a constant tug of war, fighting to see which one will rule their lives. Let's slowly now take our last breath here and we'll make our way up.
Now, as you make your way up, and I'm just going to turn my body, it's the same position. So I'm going to make my way up with you, and we're going to lean back just like we did on the other side. So your hands will come back slowly as you walk back. Then the right leg will come back out. So both of the legs are out now. There's a couple different ways you can rotate your hip girdle. One, you can slide your hand under your butt and pull your butt out. It's weird and it works. So try it. The more butt, the more it works, weirdly. Yeah, just pull it right out. So your butt's there to protect those sits bones when you sit down. Otherwise, it would be bone against the floor, and that would not feel good. You wouldn't be able to sit for very long. So by pulling them out of the way, it rotates our hip girdle forward. And now you can actually rotate it forward yourself. So think about your whole hip girdle and trying to turn it down to the floor. So lift up your hips off the floor, but keep your heels down. And use my hands, lifting up my bottom. Turn your hips forward and then set them down. Do it again. Lift up, turn forward, lift up, turn forward. Do it a few times. They do this in the hot yoga sequence quite a bit because they're trying to get their whole hip and knee to turn down towards the floor with the ankle to bring the chest to the mat. In vinyasa, those people like scream dead in their tracks when they see people do that because their toes and hips are pulled back when they're doing their forward fold. Oftentimes I've seen, there's no real rules in yoga because a lot of this is based on interpretation. And then you get people that will interpret it a certain way and then they command it as law. And that's simply not the case. If you know anything about yoga, it's not taught that way. And if it is, you should probably reconsider who's teaching you. Their views may be limited is all. And it could be fine. Could be okay with where you're at. As you're walking forward, you're noticing, can I get my chest closer to the mat? Or is this causing my back to round? And if my back is rounding, well, my hip girdle is going to turn back with me. And if you were to rotate forward without that hip girdle, you're going to tear something or injure yourself. It's not safe to do. The hips, the knees, and the ankles really need to go together as we turn them. So think about that as you're either pushing your hands into the ground behind you and pushing the heart forward, or you're walking your hands out. So you may notice that it's easy to walk out. A lot of dancers can bring their chest right down to the floor with their toes right on up. In the hatha, they grab the toes and they pull the toes down with the ankle. You could probably do it. Karen's off camera over there doing this. Karen, if you grabbed your toes, hooked them, they would turn forward to the floor, huh? Yeah, see, they turn right with your knee. It's weird. So just kind of notice where you're at here as you're in that inner groin. Men are going to be really tight and seized up here because the hip girdle is just framed differently because of not needing to bear a child through those hips. So they're going to be tighter. You're going to get the IT bands on the outside of the hip are also going to be very tight. And they don't tell you they're tight. They just pull the hamstring and the inner groin. So you don't really know that that's the cause. Could be the glute too, but we'll address that in a second. So we're not all good witch. We're not all bad witch, right? The reality is they both exist in our unconscious. They live as a constant tug of war fighting to see which one will rule our lives. So with every decision made, there is metaphorically a little devil sitting on one shoulder. They're screaming at the top of his lungs. Look out for yourself. There's so much to be fearful of. And be on your guard or you will be crushed. And then on the other shoulder, there's a small angel who gently whispers, you are a perfect expression of the divine. Your true self is eternal and cannot be harmed or destroyed. And though my words may seem insane, if you decide with honor and courage, you will know the meaning of joy. All right, we're also going to take a couple more breaths here. That's it. So just think about where you're at. I'm getting my little notes because I just like to not forget stuff because I like to do that when I'm not paying attention. All right, we're going to walk our hands back. And then as you walk your hands back, you should be into a seated, upright, wide leg position. You can grab under your knees. You may need to help them out to bring those knees in. Okay, I'm going to turn just so you're facing the mat like you guys may be here. Now cross the ankles. Place the hands onto the mat for tabletop. Just bringing your hands down onto the mat. I already forgot what I was doing. I looked and then I forgot. Like it literally was like 5 seconds later. I'm like, what was I doing again? Okay. Oh, tabletop. All right. So this part it's because my book is not staying open. Okay. So this part, we're going to open up our knees wide. And then of course I'm going to turn back to face you because this will be more helpful. See, that's why I need to look at my notes better and read them. All right, open up your knees out wide, but if you notice my feet are together behind me, this is called prune frog. So this is a big hip opener. We're going to enter pretty quick, but this isn't the big to do. This is going to lead up into it. So I'm just going to open up my knees. Oftentimes this is my big wop daddy because it's such a big hip opener. But as I'm opening up here, my feet are together. I'd like you to notice your hips go forward and back. Can you do that? Just forward and back. Okay, so this is what's going to slowly happen because your hips are going to try to help you and they're not really going to help you, right? They really need to keep your hips right over the knees as you open them wide. Now, when you get your hips out wide, and again, my hips and my knees in the same line,
And I'm on my elbows. You might be on your elbows. You will be. Then you pull the ankle out. So your ankle is down on the floor. Yeah, right underneath that knee so that we're gently opening it. You may have noticed Spot doing this in the kitchen. You're like, Mildred, look at the dog, and he's sounding, like, wow, he's so flexible. So you have some better, newfound love for the dog in this position here. All right, so if this is really killing your ankle bones or your knee bones because it's not that easy to go wide and you're way up here, you're gonna have to put blankets or a towel or a shirt or anything underneath that bone, the knee, the ankle. Yeah, and then try to refrain from moving the hips forward. They usually don't go really back. They tend to go forward and your belly slides down to the mat. My real flexible friends will take a nap here. So I'd rather you keep your hips up so that you're fine. No, just your hips are up. Your hips are up, yeah. So their heart can come down. I'm just got the microphone on here, so I'm not coming all the way down. And then you can either stack your hands and place your forehead on the top fist, or you can place your hands one on top of each other and flat, place your forehead on there. But we're just finding a neutral neck and then just finding our way back into our breathing. This is a pretty deep hip opener, as you can see. So take your time as you get comfortable. And then we're going to take another 10 to 15 breaths here. So we're here for a little bit. Let's just hang in there. It's going to be about 2 to 3 minutes. It's not going to be forever. So when you choose to listen to the whisper of the tiny angel, you're living as a good witch. But when you choose to listen to that screeching of the little devil, you're living as a bad witch. So with this awareness, there's only one question, Emily. Are you a good witch or a bad witch? When Dorothy first arrives in Munchkin Land, Glinda kisses Dorothy on the forehead, a seeming gesture of love, or possibly a quiet blessing. The book goes into a bit more detail than the movie. In the book, the kiss comes at the point when Dorothy is ready to begin her journey on the Yellow Brick Road. "Won't you go with me?" pleaded the little girl, who had begun to look upon the little old woman as her only friend. "No, I can't do that," she replied, "but I will give you my kiss. And no one will dare injure a person who has been kissed by the Good Witch of the North." She came close to Dorothy and kissed her gently on the forehead. Where her lips touched the girl, they left a round, shining mark. To be kissed by the Good Witch is one of the great gifts of the Spirit. It is a covenant made between the soul and the Creator. It is the guarantee that we will find our way home. It is the commitment on the part of the Spirit that promises to always meet us where we are and guide us in whatever way we are best able to accept. The degree to which we are able to accept this gift is the degree that we will be able to experience serenity. All right, you might notice the hips are kind of getting a little closer to the mat even, so just stay with it. I'm going to get you out of here slowly, no quick movements. Quick movements out of a yoga pose in panic can really lead into an injury, so you need to really be careful. That's typically when injury is happening, is out of fear and panic to get out of the pose. Okay, so to be kissed by the Good Witch, various spiritual traditions have rituals, so I'm going to skip that. I read that already. Various spiritual traditions have rituals such as baby blessings and baptisms to commemorate and remind us of the kiss. And while they are a nice sentiment, they are nothing more than that. For Glinda's kiss rests on all of us. For somewhere deep inside, there is a part of each individual that is wise and all-knowing, in complete attunement with the rest of the universe. This kiss lets it be known that it no longer matters how many drugs a person takes, how many sexual partners they've had, or how many times they've cheated, lied, or stolen. It matters not what our grade point average is or how much money we give to the poor. It doesn't make any difference how many times you chant your mantra, receive consecrated bread, or fast. The kiss of the Good Witch, the mark of the Spirit, is universal and unconditional. It is our birthright, and like the inheritance of the prodigal son, it is waiting for us anytime we choose to accept it. Okay, let's take our last breath or so. If you're crying, just wipe your tears off now. If you're like, I think I have to call to the other room to have someone help me, you don't. You're going to be okay. You're going to make it. Let's do this first. Let's trust on our elbows, our forearms, our hands, whatever's on the floor, and let your hips slide forward and back a little bit. And then when they go forward, can you move your feet in? Just your feet in. Just your feet. Just slide your feet in. Nothing more. Just bring them in all the way in. Now bring your hands to the mat if your elbows are down and walk your hands back. Now hold on. Bring those knees in. Now as soon as you get your knees under your hips, you're okay. Because once they stack, that pressure's out of the hips. You're not in that anymore. Now walk the knees forward. We're going to use our block for this next part. So if you have it, if you don't have it, it'll still work. Roll to your back. As you roll to your back, place the feet onto the floor right under your knees. Open your feet to the distance of your own body, of your hips, I should say, not your body, because your body could be a little bit bigger than your hips, and that's not what we're talking about. So as you bring your hands outside your hips, they should brush the feet. The heels should be down, so that's more important. My block, again, is nearby. Lift your hips up to the sky. Try walking your shoulders down a little bit, if that makes sense. And then try to walk your heels in towards your hands, maybe. Then once you're in bridge, your hips are as high as you can get them. Your goal is to try to get the knees to remove from your sight, so you're not able to see the knees. Just kind of a bubbling ball of a belly. Now from here, we're going to bring the big toe mounds down, grab the floor. Now take the block and place it in between the thighs, tall and wide. This would be short, wide. This would be tall, skinny, tall, wide in the thighs. That way, when I squeeze, I don't have to squeeze too hard. If it's skinny, it'd be too hard to squeeze. If it was wide, it would feel really weird. All right, now as you're squeezing the block, you're moving now energy into adduction muscles. The glutes are probably on fire a little bit. They're just really tight. Now we're gonna lower the hips down, see if we can get them to loosen out. Exhale, breath, lift up, and just kind of focus on squeezing the block a little bit extra as you come up high. And you'll do 3 more of those. That's it, nice and easy. 3. 2. Now on the last one, hold your lift. We're going to only be here for about 6 or 7 breaths. It's not going to be forever. So get into position, hold. I'll reach you a tiny bit to get your mind off of it. This is really helping you, isn't it? With this kiss, we are guaranteed to find our way to Kansas. And why, you ask? Because this kiss holds the truth that we never left. So the question that naturally follows is, why do good deeds at all? Why not do whatever the hell we want? Stepping on whomever we need to that gets in our way. And there's nothing to lose, for I have this guarantee, and I'm going to milk it for all this worth. There's a simple answer. Just because we have a guarantee of success doesn't mean the yellow brick road is not going to be long and hard. It also doesn't mean instant success or that we won't take long and painful detours into dark and fearful places. One of the great problems with most moral codes is that they are imposed without the threat of some form of outside punishment, the fear of external damnation, or the belief that one will return in the next lifetime as an outhouse maggot, are very poor reasons to abstain from doing anything. And as the nightly news will attest, their effectiveness is also quite questionable. All right, friends, now take the block out. You're going to reach up, grab the block, lower your hips. Just set the hips down into the floor. Open and close your knees a couple times, like a butterfly. Get ready to take off. All right, now walk the feet back. Just make sure they don't get too out in front of you. Place the block underneath the right foot. Once the block's underneath the right foot, it's nice and even. My left foot's simply on the floor. My right hand feels the block. My left hand feels my heel. Now lift your hips back into bridge. Walk your shoulders in. Push it through all 4 corners of the right foot and lift that bridge higher. Down and up, down for 5. Nice and smooth. Focus on your right foot. 5. 4, higher please. Focus on the right foot, all 4 corners. 3, all 4 corners, especially those big toes. 2, now hold your next one up. 1, lift your left leg to the sky, and then we're gonna do 1 more set. That's it, a 5. Lower your butt and your heel on the straight leg to the floor. Then all the way back up to the sky. 1, 4 more. All the way down, all the way up. 4, good, all the way down, all the way up. 3, all the way down, all the way up. 2, all the way down, and all the way up. 1. Set the left foot onto the floor. Place the right foot onto the left foot, and then turn your big toe up towards you. And as you drop the baby toe down, figure 4. Push your hips up to the sky. Use your baby toe of your right foot to hold onto the outer left knee. As you're pressing up, we're releasing that glute energy through the hip now. So hang out here for a moment. Take 1 more breath, please. Now lower your hips to the floor. Bring your left knee up towards you. Push your right knee away.
You can maybe grab the hamstring for this figure four glute stretch, or you're welcome to grab the shin bone and push that knee away. The chin is down, your neck is as flat as possible. Mine's not very flat with this mic, so just know that you want to listen to more of my cues there. Chin is down, neck is flat, and you might be pushing your right knee away and then pulling that left shin in. The feet are relaxed here, completely relaxed. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Set the foot onto the floor. Now place the right foot back onto the floor. Grab your block that's under the right foot. Tall, wide between the thighs. I'm going to write a song. Tall and wide between the thighs. Get your butt up to the sky. All right, here we go. Butts to the sky. All right, walk your shoulders in. I don't think anybody's going to buy my song though. They're like, yeah, that's a good song there. All right, down and up. Now we're doing this, kind of focusing on now squeezing the glute and lifting all the way up. Notice where your discrepancies are. I mean, you can find out where it feels sloppy and start fine tuning it now. Try to get all the way up to the scapula, those big bones on the back of the shoulder, and lift those hips until you can't see that knee bones anymore. The knee bones attached to the hip bone. Hip bones. Remember that? We're gonna get that game. I want to play that one again. Remember Operation? You couldn't touch the sky, the sides of it. It would go, ah. Right? All those old games. They're bringing everything back, right? They've already regurgitated all of our music. Every movie's been remade now. They're like the old one or the original one or the third one now, you know, because technology is all changing. So now we should just get all those old games. They're actually quite fun. There's a cider house right next door that would, they just had all old games. And it was like the funnest time ever. They just sold cider and let you play games. All right, and that's kind of what quarantine looks like for most people. All right, let's hold it all the way up. All the way up. I was in a Rite Aid the other day. I had to pop in to get something there. And the woman in front of me, she was about my age. And she was buying like 4 cases of beer and like all this alcohol. I'm like, I'm following her to her quarantine. She goes, this is the second time I've been to the store just for this. She goes, there's nothing for us to do but drink. And I was like, that's not true. You could do bridge pose with us for like 10 hours. That's way better than drinking, right? Right, Karen? She's laughing over here at me. She's literally trying not to bust up. All right, you're an idiot. I already know this though, so it's fine. It's okay, they know me in there. So we're like the bees. That's why I'm like, hey, it's the bees from that Blind Melon song. It's all my blissfully idiot friends. Yes, we're all there together. We make this ridiculousness out of ourselves. We have no problem making fun of ourselves. All right, let's lower our hips to the floor. You did a fine job. So let's remove the block, place it underneath that left foot. Now, as you get it evenly under that left foot, my big toe was trying to sneak off of it earlier, so try to get it on there. Now we're again, same position, now you're pressing up. That block is requiring you to push harder in that foot because the floor has moved up. So now that pressure goes into that foot first. As you come down, my right leg is there, it's helping me, but I'm really focusing on this left side now, down. Just this left side. And then as I'm doing that, what you're gonna notice is that your body has a tendency of rolling out on the foot because it's designed to actually walk and run that way. So shoes have not really helped you in the form of balance in your feet. Arch support has actually prevented us from having strong arches, as it turns out. It could cause things like plantar fasciitis and fallen arches. And that could be just from walking in shoes for some people. All right, as you're getting up there, you're getting up nice and tall. So you're pressing through the big toe of your left foot or the foot that's on the block to get more strength in that foot. The next one, we're gonna hold it up. And as you hold it up, you're gonna take your leg that's down and lift it to the sky. So that leg is really holding you all the way from the hamstring to the glute now. And now here we go, all the way down and up for 5. 5 nice big ones, 5. All the way down and up. 4, all the way down, up. 3, we're almost there. This is 2, all the way up, and 1, all the way up. Now place the one that's not working, the leg that's up on the floor. Place the foot that was on the block on the other leg now. Pull your toe up, drop the heel so that you can kind of use it as leverage to lift your hips in this bridge figure 4. Pull the left knee open as you press your hips up. You'll feel it right around the outer glute, the piriformis on that hip. Such a good stretch for the hip glute. Now lower the hips, stay in the figure four, push the knee away. You can stay there or lift the knee up for a deeper stretch. It's your call. To go deeper, I'm going to grab the hamstring. To go deeper, I'm going to grab the shin bone. So any of those will work. My chin should be able to go to the chest though. My neck should be down. You don't need your feet anymore. Let them go. Now pull the shin bone in, push your left hamstring away with that left elbow. It's right there under the knee crease. Then try to get grounded in your tail. Feel this nice stretch now. Let's breathe. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now I'm going to set the foot onto the floor, release the other foot so they're both now down, right? Now let's bring our knees up to our chest. Yeah, and let's just circle them a little bit. Yeah, circle them. I want them to release. I want them to feel comfortable. I don't want to be like, no, what's happening? I'm scared. This is the Mac Daddy one, and it's not hard at all, which is always what you want to hear at the end of the class, because usually they're like, this is going to be awful. And you're like, oh no, what are you going to do? Because they're like, don't worry if you don't get into it. And you're like, oh, I'm going to suck at this. So this one, no, it's the opposite. Everyone can do this one. It's easy and it's super, super deep, and it's going to get you into your body. So just kind of, can you stay here for a second? So our lives, stay right there on your backs. Our lives are this. We're rounded. And because of that, this is a new pattern that's in our body. If I were to get you into the exact opposite pattern of that on your belly, just watch me. I'm going to go in this, like locust, right? Karen's like, yeah, it's locust pose. There's variations of it. There's modes we can grab our legs. The problem with it, it's great folks. I love it. There's amazing, all of them. You can't hold them very long. 4, 5 breaths and we're toast. Most people are like, I can even get 5 breaths. I mean, it's a lot to be able to hold that energy up, find a deep breath. So we're going to do that pose, and you're not going to have to exert any energy at all. So take the block. You can also use a towel. I'm going to use it this height, which is long, tall. It can also be long and wide, so flatter. So I'm going to go long like this, tall. Then we're on our bridge pose. So everybody, you're here on your knees. So take your feet to the floor, then lift up to your bridge pose. When you do that, I'm sliding the block under my tailbone. Now I want you to notice when I come down onto it. If I lift up, I can move it down to the butt more, up to the back more. Most of us are somewhere right in the middle where the hip bone is, on the flat part of the bone. Trouble is I don't know if you got in the right spot. So this is how you're going to tell. You set your hip bones down on the block, your arms to the side, and then you straighten your legs out one at a time. If it feels weird, which if you've never done this before, it's going to feel weird. You may want to just go, well, I don't know if I got it right. Try moving it a little bit higher, just a hair, and then try it again. Is that better or worse? It's like at the eye doctor. Then you go, that's better. For me, it was a million times better. I just found the spot. But just in case you didn't, I might go a little higher. I might go a little lower. So do that as many times as you think you need until you get to the best case scenario for you. So I'm not saying you're like, hey, I got a new way I'm going to sleep at night now. No, we're not talking about that. But you certainly can be here for the purposes of the next 2 minutes. Did you say 2 minutes? Yes, I said 2 minutes. And like I said, it shouldn't be hard. If it is, you can make the block smaller, move the towel out, and just have a little tiny lift. Now, once the legs are straight now, I'm relaxed. Did you see this? So remember I showed you how I was when I was on my belly lifting? So now we're in that same pose. I'm in a back bend. This is the coolest part. The hips are raised now higher than your heart. So the adrenal glands are kind of dismissed here. This allows the replenishment of a lot of things, especially cortisol, adrenaline, in those adrenals. So that endocrine gland is really designed to work with, of course, procreation and creation. It also is creativity. It also is where stress can come from too. So if I just showed you how our back is rounded, there's also a link between the chemicals in our food, and particularly in our wild animals, the animals that we eat. And there's a lot of different chemical matter that has now been proven to be what they call endocrine disruptors. And what that means is the endocrine system doesn't know what to do with these chemicals coming through, and it's causing a disruption in that. And it's causing problems. Hypothyroidism for the gland in the throat, the thyroid and parathyroid. We get immune issues like we're seeing now out in the world. People are simply not healthy and their immune systems are compromised. That's over the heart chakra. releases T cells into the bloodstream that works hand in hand with the immune system. Continues on, goes through the body. We're down here by the hips. Now we're our back and we're treating it. So between the two hip bones, right, we have the ovaries for the women. Gentlemen have the testes. These are secreting hormones, obviously, that work into the realm of creation. Also, on the back side, where you're like, my kidneys are, like your low back hurts. Sometimes they're like, it's your kidneys. We have the adrenals. And those are releasing chemicals, hormones that are for stress. Cortisol, adrenaline, and some other things in there. So that kind of is not working properly for whatever reason. So this allows them to turn off here and replenish. So you can see we're so much in that rounded position in our back that it's really causing us to not be able to really contemplate enough. We're kind of reacting perhaps where we maybe normally wouldn't. And like the book suggests, I mean, we're not a-holes. We don't necessarily mean to be, mean to others and mean to ourselves. It's not our nature, really. It more is a side effect of what's happening in a deeper layer. We just aren't feeling balanced. We're feeling less than or not good, or maybe we're embarrassed by something that has happened to us or something we've done ourselves. And then these things start to build in there, and they cause your heart to shrink, and they cause calcification around it, which doesn't let the T cells come out. You've heard of people dying from broken hearts. It's kind of interesting because it kind of works right around where the immune system is. So now as you're finding your way into your last deep breaths, I've talked you through most of this now. We're going to just finish up with our last little section here, and then we're going to be done with this class. There's a famous saying that sums up this idea very well. We are not punished for our sins, but rather by our sins. In other words, we have complete freedom to do whatever the hell we want. It's not a vengeful God that will keep us out of heaven, or a principle such as karma that will keep us from waking up. Oz is a dream from which we all will wake up. But how we choose to live our lives, the standards, the values which we choose to abandon or embrace, and the quality of our actions, they'll be the deciding factors in whether we experience Oz as a nightmare or a quiet dream of peace. Glinda's kiss leaves a mark on each of us that cannot be washed off or erased. It is there for us to embrace or to deny, to share with the world or to hide under a bushel basket of fear. When we learn to see this mark in ourselves, we are magically able to see this mark in others. And when we deny this mark in ourselves, well, we're unable to experience it in others too. At best, we will live in codependence rather than interdependence. And at worst, we will wage war globally, nationally, and internally. Please now take your final breath in this phase, and simply on the exhale, bend the knees, placing the feet onto the floor. One last little bit of yoga magic before Shavasana is the floating legs up the wall. Leave your arms down, bring one knee up and straighten that leg. Now draw the other knee up and straighten it. Now, if your legs are out in front of you, it does tend to work. It's a bit awkward, but it will work. But if you're stacked with your knees over your hips and your heels over your knees, it becomes weightless, and yoga magic truly takes shape. Your feet can be together, hanging out, independent. Do what's comfortable, but please come back to your eyes closed and back to your breath. If you can imagine a world where we see people as spiritual beings rather than as having a race, a religion, a nationality, or even a sexual identity, then you will have a very good idea of how the world will look when we encourage to show the mark of the good witch, rather than the collective baggage of our past. In that image, you will also see through the mistakes of others, as well as your own, and growth and evolution will happen without effort, resistance, and pain. But recognizing this mark for most of us is very challenging. This gentle kiss of the good witch offers us so much, but it's so easy to forget. Let's face it, the dramatic entry of the wicked witch, complete with glass breaking, laughter, smoke, and fire, scares us so deeply that Glinda's gentleness retreats into the background of our minds. The fear of the wicked witch's colors our perception of Oz. And so it is no wonder we view so many people as the enemy. Each person we meet is seen not as bearing the mark of the good witch, but rather as reminding us of fear. Self-defense seems like a logical alternative. And far too often, we see offense as the best defense, thus perpetuating fear. All right, let's take our last deep breath here. And then when you're ready to exit the pose, we're simply going to bend the knees and place them on the floor, put together one at a time, it doesn't matter. Then when the feet are down, push the feet into the floor, lift the hips from the block and slide the block out. So now the back has been released. As your legs come down to the mat, we'll simply straighten them out and then shaking them out. Let the low back release. Place your left foot onto the floor. Bring your right knee all the way to your chest and interlace your fingers. Gentle twist is it to realign the spine. I'm going to bring my knee up to my heart, my chin to my chest, and then grab the knee with the left hand, right arm out. Tiny gentle twist just to realign those big chakras right along the spine as they relate now to our lower back. Moving to the middle of the back and through the shoulders as you look right for 3, 2. Bring your right knee back to center, bring your right hand back up, and then switch sides. The left leg will come up, the right foot will extend long or on the floor. Fingers interlace, elbows in, draw the knee to the armpit, relax the feet. Hold on to the shin or knee with the right hand and bring the left arm out as you gently twist over to the right. Please keep the left shoulder down. This is not a deep pose per se. It's just a gentle realignment of those last energy pathways. And now as your chin is moving to the shoulder, continue to push through that left shoulder and reach. Just taking slow, deep breaths. As you bring your knees to your heart, you'll take your final pose as you reach your arms around them for a big squeeze. You're forward to your knees for 3, squeeze harder please for 2, and as you exhale, final Shavasana brings us home. Dead body posture or corpse pose as your arms rest at your side, palms are faced to the sky. The toes are fallen out to the sides. You may also place your hands on the chakra lines, right hand between the center of the chest and left hand between the center of the hips, lining up the Anahata and Shavasana. And allow yourself to move back into the tension of your breath. Feel the heaviness of the toes as they fall out, representing the corpse in a dead body posture. And as you feel your breath starting to deepen, continue to enjoy deep breaths as I bring to you a tiny bit of sound. We'll be working with Anahata and Shavasana, the 2 chakras that we worked with here. Take a nice deep breath in now through your nose. With your eyes closed, exhale and slowly let the toes just drop out to your side.
through our spiritual practices such as meditation and prayer in their many forms, we will begin to recognize this mark of peace. We begin to transcend the ego, and we begin to see through the special effects of the Wicked Witch. As we begin to recognize this mark, we see it in all our brothers and sisters. We begin to see it in nature and in art, and in music and in science. The kiss of the Witch of the North is as omnipresent as spirit itself. And as this transcendence continues, the illusion of Oz transforms itself from a dream of terror to a dream of peace, creativity, and joy. When this happens, we can spend less time rearranging the furniture in our respective burning houses and more time walking along our individual yellow brick roads towards the reality of nirvana, the reality of heaven, the reality of Kansas. Now slowly, if you're on your back, simply just allow yourself to watch your breath. Wherever you are in any position, bring the fingers together and lightly just rub the pads of the fingers together as you heighten sensation of touch and bring an awareness to the physical body. As you're gently wiggling the toes, begin to wiggle your fingers. Begin to roll your wrist and roll your ankles. As you're rolling your wrist and your ankles, softly bend your knees and bring your knees to your heart. As your knees come to your heart, grab your knees and gently rock side to side. Feel free to drop off to the side, make your way up to a comfortable seat, or simply rock and roll forward to back until you can lift into anything comfortable. We end our class and session today with our hands in our heart center. And with our hands at our heart center, draw your heart to meet your thumbs and let your shoulders melt back. For one last breath, draw the heart forward and bring the chin down. As the heart moves forward, we recognize compassion. May we seek out opportunities of compassion. And as the thumbs rise and place between the eyebrows or forehead, it lines up with Anja, the seedling of our growth. As we take the last and final breath, reach toward the sky and ask, may we continue this inquiry and growth into our unlimited path. And as we exhale humbly to earth, may compassion show us the way. From my heart to yours, namaste.
Thank you so much for joining me on your mats today here at Hard Yoga. I look forward to meeting with you again tomorrow. If you have any suggestions or you have any requests on any body parts or any type of workouts or classes that you would like to see, or any particular chakra work that you'd like to see, feel free to join in. Again, the book I was reading from was Spiritual Journeys Along the Yellow Brick Road. The author is Darren Main. Again, I want to thank you guys so much again for your continued support of our studio, and just want to mention that we are working very hard here every day to ensure that our studio survives this. As of right now, we're still having to pay all of our bills as though we are open, and yet we are not able to collect any money. So the support that we're asking is that our members continue to pay their monthly dues if they can to help us. If you cannot, we completely understand. For those of you who are not paying, we definitely want to offer this yoga for free. This is our gift to the world. So yoga is for free for everybody. Spread it, give it to all your friends. If anybody can make a donation, we have a Venmo account on there. You can check that out. And we're going to be offering a video membership subscription as well this week that you'll be able to sign up for if you so choose to want to be able to access that. So anyway, I want to thank you guys all again for joining us, and keep it safe, have some fun, think outside the box, and more importantly, look for the silver lining. There's silver lining happening all around us. It's happening in everything that I see and do. And maybe instead of worrying about what everybody else is doing, and if they're complying or whatever, maybe work on seeing the silver lining today and see what that shift of energy does for you and what it invites into your world. Because as Buddha says, and I say this, all that we are, it's on my wall over here, is the result of what we have thought. Because the mind is everything. So what we think is what we become. All right. I love you. I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you. Mwah. I'll see you next time. Peace out. And I love you. Mwah. Peace out, you guys. I got 3 of you. It's like all my children. Bye. Peace out. I love you. Good job, you guys.